For this September, I decided the cinema options I am recommending and the list of books that I want to read are going to be based on backlist options. I wanted to focus a little bit more on what I have on my shelves, what I can access at the library, and kind of keep it simple and not be reading anything that is new. By backlist titles, I mean books that have been published prior to this year. For the movies that I'm sharing, they're classics, and so they've been published quite a long time ago. I have 3 that I want to share with you if you're interested in classic novels or watching vintage movies. So the first one that I want to share with you is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. This is at its heart a revenge story. It is the story of a man who is wronged by others who have their own nefarious reasons for wronging him, but he loses everything. His family, his beloved, his career, his income, his inheritance, all of this is lost. And he ends up getting thrown in prison. And we spend much of this story with him as he is going through the pain of that and then masterfully getting revenge on his enemies. And while I enjoy the book, I actually listened to it within the last few years again as an audiobook. I found an old movie that I really enjoyed that I thought really got at the heart of the wrongful things that happened to him and then the moral dilemma of is revenge right or not. It was produced in 1975, so it truly is a classic. Richard Chamberlain plays Edmond Dantes. When I read this again, I will absolutely picture him in that role. And the reason why I would suggest it specifically for this transitioning from summer to autumn time period is it's set, especially in the beginning, at the sea. And so you do get that ocean boat kind of feeling, which I think is summery. But when he goes into prison, the camera work for this, again, in 1975, it is what it is. But it is such a dark, dreary dungeon. You really kind of get the creepy vibes from it. And then, of course, his revenge is just so brutal and masterful. And so I just thought it was so wonderful to watch and kind of get that feeling of still a summertime, but having that little bit of creepiness that edges in there. I thought it stayed pretty true to the story, good enough, I think. It doesn't have a rating, but I would say it's at least PG, especially because of the revenge actions that he makes. There are obviously some trigger warnings in there, but it did win awards, and it was a great movie, and I definitely want to watch it again. The next one is The Go-Between by L.P. Hartley. This you can get through Amazon Prime for free, also using Freevee. So I think you do have to watch commercials for this one. But this is a book that I had not heard of until recently. And again, I think the movie does a really good, credible adaptation where I don't think it deviates that much from the story. This is rated PG. There is at the end kind of a scandalous shot where you know what's happening, even though it's not explicit. So I just wanted to put that out there. But I know in the book there are some things that happen that would cause a trigger warning, but I think the movie kind of glosses over that part other than the scandalous interaction. So the movie is a Harold Pinter movie. So the B-roll is fantastic. And I think the reason why, again, it's good for summer transitioning into autumn is this is actually set over the summer, yet the shots really kind of have like the dried grass, and I feel like there's trees that are starting to change. And then there's some creepy stuff in this book that was written in 1953. Kind of creepy stuff. So in this we follow Leo. Leo is a young boy who is on break from his boarding school. His family doesn't have a lot of money, but he is befriended, is a companion to a boy who is very wealthy. And this friend invites him to come and stay at his family's estate for the summer. And so Leo very naively, innocently goes, and while Leo is there, he meets the family members of this boy. And one of those family members is his older sister, who is beautiful and cunning. She is one of those women who's sort of stuck in this role of wealthy daughter who needs to make a good, solid marriage. She's not necessarily happy with that lot in life. She really wants to make her own choice, and it is not a wealthy man whom she would choose. And so she asks Leo to be the go-between, the man who she really is in love with. Leo, you'll note right from the beginning of the movie, is purported to be a magician. He's caused an accident at school. You're never really quite sure how much is actually true and how much is in his imagination. But later on in the book, as things kind of come to a head, he does perform some weird, like, spells kinds of things where he's saying words from a book and mixing herbs together and doing this incantation thing. And so that's the part that's kind of creepy. But again, I do think it's innocent enough that it's not like, if you're concerned about a cult and watching too much of that, it's not really so strongly in there, but it's enough to be like, this is creepy. And again, perfect for early autumn. So either the book or the movie, I think, would be great. The movie has Julie Christie and Alan Bates and Michael Redgrave. We do kind of spend most of our time during Leo's boyhood, but there is some, again, because it's Harold Pinter, the way that he connects the current day Leo with this remembering of this summer is really creative and nice. So if you don't want to commit to a longish book, the movie I thought was a great option. Next, I found Helena Bonham Carter in A Hazard of Hearts. This was produced in 1987. She looks like a baby in this. It is actually a book by Barbara Cartland. I think it's called A Hazard of Hearts. I have not read the book, but when I watched it, I had just read Frenchman's Creek by Daphne du Maurier, and I really got the same vibes. So let me tell you the plot, and then you can decide if maybe even picking up Frenchman's Creek is a good idea or watching this A Hazard of Hearts. So in Frenchman's Creek, we have a woman who's living this life. She's very dissatisfied in it. Her husband's kind of a bore, but he does seem to let her do her own thing. You just get the feeling that she's feeling very stifled in her life. And she decides and tells her husband she's going to take the kids to their other property, which is out kind of on this cliff near this Frenchman's Creek, which is like a river. And so it's like a house on a cliff by the water. And she's leaving him in the city. She doesn't want him to come with her. She goes to this house. It's been shuttered up. She's got her children there. And she decides to go exploring. And she discovers a pirate whose ship is docked right on the bank below this house in this river. And she decides that she wants to try living like a pirate for a while. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't want to give too much away, but it was, I thought, a really fun book to read, especially in the summer because of the boat situation. Well, in A Hazard of Hearts, the thing that's different is Helena Bonham Carter is a young girl. Her father is a gambler. He ends up gambling away her and his property in a card game. He's like encouraged to do this, and he doesn't have any ability to like self-regulate. So trigger warning, he ends his life, and Helena Bonham Carter has to kind of pick up the pieces. And the guy who ends up getting her in this card game offers to bring him to his childhood home where his mother lives. Well, lo and behold, that's a mess. The mother is ridiculous. The man who, won her has got all kinds of secrets. I thought it was really creative. Again, the connection here is the pirates, the dark kind of rocky on the cliff house, the secret doors and rooms in the house, and I just really found a good connection. I really enjoyed both of them. A Hazard of Hearts is not rated, but it says it's for 16 and up. She does have unwanted affections towards her from somebody else who's like really creepy. So, you know, it's certainly, none of these movies are really ones that I would say like watch with your kids, but I think they're great vintage old movies that also go along with some really great books. So if you're looking for that, wanting to kind of feel like it's the end of summer, you don't want to get into too much of autumn feel, but want that transition, there are 3 really great choices. But as far as my backlist TBR list that I've chosen for September, some of them are a little bit more recent and modern, and some of them are not. I am doing quite a few read-alongs this month, which I think is exciting. It does encourage me to be a little bit more creative and to research a bit more, which I do love about building a TBR book list. First, I am reading The Little Village School by Jervis Finn. You can see I have started it a bit. We are reading this for our Cozy Reader Book Club. This is a book club that I co-lead with Jen at Jen's Reading Life, who I will link below. This is set in a town called Barton in the Dale. In this, we follow this little kind of sleepy village. They are on the hunt for a new school teacher. They have a few applicants, and the one that they choose is Elizabeth Devine, who is a city slicker. She has come in and just sort of applied on a whim. She arrives at the interview in red shoes. This is quite scandalous, especially to the current teacher who's not very well liked, with the last name Miss Sourbutt. This seems like a very cheeky story about an English town and all of its inhabitants, and possibly how towns like that might make judgments on people maybe unfairly. It's pretty thick, so I think we really do get into the lives of the villagers, and I do love how Jervis Finn has named his characters based on their personalities. It just, again, makes it a little bit of tongue-in-cheek. Even though it really feels like it's set in the past, he wrote it in 2012. So there is a little bit of modern feel, but also kind of that anachronistic village life in England where it really could be set in quite a few different periods of history. I am excited to share my thoughts on this when the Cozy Reader Book Club meets over Google Meet on Saturday, September 21st at 2 p.m. If you're interested in joining us, just leave me a message down below or find me on Instagram and send me a DM. We would be happy to invite you to that. Next, I have Poustinia. This is by Catherine Doherty, fully known as Catherine de Hawk Doherty. I am reading this with a very dear friend of mine. This is a nonfiction about encountering God in silence, solitude, and prayer. Catherine Doherty was born in Russia, then created some ministries. I learned about her through my readings on Dorothy Day. So I'm excited about this. It's really about being contemplative. It is about finding silence and solitude, maybe not in your external life, but on your internal life. This was originally published in 1975. I just want to have a moment for the cover. It is lovely. Each part begins with these lovely cabin drawings. Just find it very inspirational for this time of year. The next read-along that I am joining is Spinster September. The only stipulation is that in the month of September, you read a book that has a spinster in it. It can be inferred or explicit. They don't have to be the main character. It's just kind of making sure that you're including that female character type in whatever reading choices you are making. This is the first time I've ever done Spinster September. This is hosted by Nora over at Pear Jelly. She has an Instagram group. You can just message her and she can add you into that. And there is a lot of activity in that. I actually did not start reading it when everyone else did, and I was just getting constant notifications. She has a very active group who are really loving the group read this month. The reason why I'm holding up the Post-it note is the reading schedule. I don't actually have the book. The book I'm reading as an ebook, and it is called Rhine Journey by Anne Schlee. Rhine Journey was published in 1981, but it is set in 1850. Nora has this reading schedule set up. The first 5 chapters should be read by the 7th of September. Chapters 6 through 8 should be read by the 14th of September. And then I think the remaining part of the book should be finished by the 21st. And then you can discuss without worrying about spoilers. I know Nora's concerned about that. So you'll just want to make sure you check with her Instagram posts about the schedule. But that's the schedule that I am following. In Rhine Journey, we follow Charlotte. Charlotte is a spinster. She is unmarried and has no children. She is currently traveling with her reverend brother, his wife, and his 17-year-old daughter, as the name suggests with Rhine Journey, down through Germany. Charlotte has these like odd roles without a lot of fulfillment where the family's off doing things. She's got to count and watch the luggage and make sure nobody steals it, which is kind of infuriating. Not kind of, it's infuriating. Charlotte really is at the behest of her brother as a single woman. He thwarted any attempt that she had when she was younger at possibly finding love and marriage. And even though she left for a while, she's back living with them. And we're just really seeing the limitations that Charlotte has within her own life based on societal norms. I saw on Jen's interview of Nora on her channel that Nora had recommended Thornyhold by Mary Stewart as a possibility to also read for Spinster September. And so I've had this beautiful book on my shelf for a while and have not picked it up. It very much looks like how it looks outside right now, so it, I think, is a perfect read for this time of year. Thornyhold was published in 1988. In this, we follow Gilly. Gilly has inherited her mother's cousin's cottage, which is Thornyhold. And when Gilly arrives, she discovers that the people in the town considered this cousin to be a witch. She was a witch. And they expect Gilly to also be a witch. They have decided, well, if she's living in Thornyhold, she probably has those same skills. And so they start coming to her for the needs that they used to come to the cousin for. And Gilly is a little bit kind of trying to figure out, does she have those capabilities and skills, and what role I think does the cottage play in it. And I am just very excited. I love Mary Stewart. I have not read a lot of her romance or any of her romance and mysteries. I've only read her fantasy leaning books, and I am excited to read this. It's not very thick. Again, the cover is beautiful. I just think a book about a cottage and magic is right down my alley. I love Mary Stewart's way with words and descriptions. And so I'm excited to add this to the top of my Spinster September TBR. This is a priority. Okay, next, this is a judgment-free zone. I am going to choose for Spinster September 1 or 2 of these books. The first one is the Fairacre Festival by Miss Reed. This is number 7 in this Fairacre series, I think it's called. I might have read one of them. I don't think I have. I don't think I've read any in this series, actually. I think the one I read was in her Thrush Green series. I am going to read this out of order. I know that there are people who feel very strongly about reading them in order, but for me, I'm totally content just reading this slim novel that is set in October that has Miss Reed as a main character and not reading the whole series. Maybe someday I'll start from the beginning, but for now, this is the one that I have, and I'm totally happy reading it. So hopefully it doesn't ruffle too many feathers of people who feel very strongly about this. But in this, we are, like I said, so beautiful, old copy. We are set in October in the village of Fairacre. And there is a huge storm that ends up knocking down the church. And they need to raise money to fix the church. It's just beautiful. Anyway, this was published in 1968. For us, September is fair season. And so even though it's set in October, I thought this is such a perfect fair season book for me to read. Again, it's very slim, and Miss Reed, from what I have read of hers, is a spinster, is unmarried, and so I am going to read that after Thorny Hold. I might also pick up Aunt Dimity, Vampire Hunter. This is a series by Nancy Atherton. I've read 2 or 3 of these books. This is number 13. I have not read the first 12. Nancy Atherton herself says you don't have to. You probably should because of character arcs and development. But again, I am not committed enough to this series to want to read every single one. And I saw this cover and thought it was so cute and perfect for fall. I found it in a little free library. And so I'm going to go ahead and read this, even though it is not in order. Aunt Dimity is the spinster in this, and Aunt Dimity is paranormal. She is a ghost. But she can communicate to, humans in the mortal realm. And there's always a mystery. It's usually not like this, befuddling mystery that you can find in Agatha Christie's, for instance. It's usually something that is, that you can kind of figure out what's going on. And I do like that about it. It's not a big mental, intellectual load. It's just fun and cute. And I do like the Aunt Dimity character. And so I will probably pick this up as well. Another Spinster September possibility was on my Victober choices last year, and I never got to it. It's a little thick, and so I think it's my hesitancy. So maybe I can pick it up for Spinster September and then find a prompt for Victober to fit this in. It would have worked perfectly last year for one of their prompts, but I just didn't get to it. So this is Red Pottage by Mary Cholmondeley. And in Red Pottage, we follow Rachel and Hester, basically. Rachel has inherited a fortune, and she ends up marrying a philanderer, is what it tells us on the back. And Hester is a successful writer. She has a published novel, but because of social norms, similar to what Charlotte is plagued with, she's not able to live on her own, so she's living with her brother. I am assuming that Hester is a spinster, from what I can tell. Without knowing too much about it, that's an assumption that I'm making. So I think this will also work for Spinster September. Another Spinster September choice that I have is Quartet in Autumn by Barbara Pym. This is a story about 4 co-workers. I think there are quirky characters. I think there are possibly mental health issues. And I think we're really talking about people who are getting through to the end of middle age and really kind of facing what does their life look like when they aren't middle-aged, when they're now lonely, and how do you kind of maintain friendships and interaction when you live on your own and are not working anymore. So I do think that there is a spinster in that. Again, I'm making a slight assumption because I don't want to know too much about it. I've not read any of Barbara Pym's works. This is apparently kind of short, and also the cover is beautiful, and it talks about being a quartet in autumn. So I thought that was a great option, and it was published in 1977. Okay, another read along that I'm doing is with the Comfy Cozy Book Club, not to be confused with our Cozy Reader Book Club. And she also is on Instagram, so I can go ahead and link that below. She has chosen for this month the Cherry Pie or Die mystery by CC James. This is actually set in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. So as Pennsylvania Dutch person, I do love the setting. In this, we follow a girl who is helping run a B&B. She calls it her aunt, but the woman is not actually her aunt, but she's living there. She's helping with the B&B. There's a lot of Revolutionary War historical connections here. And within this B&B, they do historical tours where they drive around to different revolutionary sites. And through one of these tours with a group of people that you kind of meet through the process of who's staying at the B&B, a man ends up dead. And so the main character has to figure out, obviously, what the mystery is and why this man is dead. It reminds me a little bit of Clue because of the names of the, we've got like Mr. and Mrs. Green, and I don't know, it just seemed a little bit like Clue, but it seems cute, and I do love the setting, and I think it's a pretty quick, easy read. And then lastly, I've got two that do not fit in a read along that I want to read that are backlist. The first one is Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo. I have seen this on Emmy Reads. This is a manga book. It is about a man who is a spy, and as part of his duties as a spy, his assignment, he needs to act like he's married. And what he doesn't realize is that he's a spy, but he's married into a family where the mother, the female, is an assassin, and the child is, I think, telepathic. And so they have these special powers that I don't know if each of them is aware of. There's the family. We have a telepath, an assassin, and a spy. And this is a series. I discovered that one of our local libraries actually has the whole series. And so I thought, well, I'll start with the first one. And if I am interested in reading more, I can just get them from the library. And so that is Spy Family. And this, I think, was published in 2020. So fairly new, but still backlist. And then I've had this on my list now for a while. This is Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman. This is the origin story for practical magic. I think everybody has heard of or seen the Nicole Kidman, Sandra Bullock practical magic movie. Practical Magic was written, I think, in 1995. This story is set prior to that, is the prequel to it, but she wrote it in 2020, I think. She wrote another prequel that comes after this, so before Practical Magic. She wrote that in 2017, and then she has one more now that just came out 2021, I think. So she's really kind of all over the place with publishing order versus the order of the story. But in this, we follow Maria Owens, who, again, in Practical Magic, the movie, we learn about her as kind of the reason why there is that curse. And so this is her story. She is abandoned in the mountains, I think. She is discovered by a woman named Hannah Owens, who Hannah adopts her or just takes her under her wing and trains her in maybe some of these magical arts. This is in the 1600s, so this is very dangerous, right? And Maria ends up falling in love with a man who abandons her, and she's unfortunately in Salem, Massachusetts during this time in the 1600s, which doesn't bode well for Maria. And we do know in Practical Magic what happens there. We're kind of given a glimpse of that, but this is that origin story. And I have heard that this is better written than Practical Magic, and so I wanted to go ahead and start here. I really didn't think I had a very long TBR list until I started to go through all of these books. I don't know if I'm going to get through all of this, but let me know if you are doing Spinster September. Let me know if you are joining our Cozy Reader Book Club with the Little Village School. And let me know if you've read any of these, if you're interested in reading any of these, or just let me know what you're reading for September. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.